when Russia launched 426 drones at Ukraine last night. 4 NATO nations scrambled fighter jets in response. And what happened next proves exactly who would win in a direct confrontation. But the speed and coordination of NATO's response revealed something Putin desperately hoped the world would never see. For months, Putin has threatened nuclear war if NATO directly confronts Russia, banking on the fear that his military might could challenge the entire Western alliance. The survival of the current world order depends on whether these threats have any real substance behind them. But when Polish F-16s, Swedish Gripens, Romanian and Italian jets took to the skies simultaneously, they exposed the terrifying reality Putin has been hiding. Russia's most massive attack of the war, 450 aerial threats, achieved a 5% success rate, while NATO's response was flawless, coordinated, and overwhelming. The numbers from last night's confrontation will show you exactly why Putin avoids direct military engagement with NATO at all costs. Russia launched its most massive aerial assault of the war at 2 a.m. on July 21st. The numbers were staggering: 426 Shahed drones, 19 cruise missiles, and 5 Kinjal hypersonic ballistic missiles streaking toward Ukrainian targets. This represented one of the largest coordinated attacks since the war began, designed to overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses through sheer volume. The attack lasted hours, with waves of drones buzzing over Kyiv like mechanical locusts. Air raid sirens wailed across multiple regions as Ukrainian air defense batteries worked frantically to intercept the incoming threats. The scale was unprecedented. Russia threw everything it had at Ukraine in a single night. But the massive assault revealed something Putin didn't want the world to see. Despite launching 450 total aerial threats, only 23 drones successfully hit their targets, a success rate of just 5.1%. The other 427 drones and missiles were either shot down, jammed, or missed their targets entirely. Ukrainian air defense systems, many provided by NATO allies, proved devastatingly effective against Russia's most advanced weapons. The Kinjal hypersonic missiles, supposedly unstoppable, were intercepted. The Shahed drones, Russia's most reliable weapon, fell from the sky in massive numbers. But Russia's failure triggered something far more revealing than Ukrainian success. Within minutes of the attack beginning, NATO's response machine activated across 4 different nations simultaneously. This wasn't just Ukraine defending itself. This was NATO demonstrating exactly what would happen if Russia ever attacked the alliance directly. NATO's response was lightning fast and perfectly coordinated. Polish F-16 Fighting Falcons scrambled from northern bases, while Swedish JS-39 Gripen fighters, stationed in Poland as part of NATO's air policing mission, joined the operation within minutes. At 3:30 a.m. local time, Romanian F-16s took off from Mihail Kogălnicianu Air Base. 90 minutes later, Italian Eurofighter Typhoons launched from the same Romanian facility. 4 NATO nations coordinated a real-time military response faster than Russia could track its own attack. But the coordination went far beyond fighter jets. Polish ground-based air defense systems reached highest readiness status. Radar reconnaissance networks across multiple countries shared real-time intelligence. NATO's integrated air defense system activated seamlessly across national borders. The contrast with Russia's chaotic attack was stark. While Russian drones wandered off course and missiles missed their targets, NATO's response was precise, coordinated, and overwhelming. Swedish pilots communicated with Polish controllers who shared data with Romanian radar operators in perfect synchronization. But the most revealing aspect was the speed. NATO's integrated command structure allowed 4 nations to coordinate military operations faster than Russia could coordinate its own attack from a single command center. The technological and organizational superiority was undeniable. Russia's massive assault had inadvertently triggered a demonstration of NATO's overwhelming military capabilities, and the comparison wasn't even close. The technology gap became obvious as the night progressed. Russia's most advanced weapons, Kinjal hypersonic missiles costing millions of dollars each, were intercepted by NATO-provided air defense systems. Meanwhile, NATO fighter jets operated with advanced radar systems that could track and engage multiple targets simultaneously. Swedish Gripen fighters demonstrated their legendary electronic warfare capabilities, jamming Russian communications and disrupting drone navigation systems. Polish F-16s, upgraded with NATO's latest avionics, maintained perfect situational awareness throughout the operation. But the escalation revealed something more troubling for Russia. 4 Russian targets unintentionally penetrated Romanian airspace for several minutes, according to the Romanian Defense Ministry. Russia couldn't even control its own weapons. They were literally flying into NATO territory by accident. The Romanian government stated these objects posed no real danger to national security, but the implications were devastating for Russian credibility. If Russia can't control its weapons during a planned attack, how could it possibly manage them during actual combat with NATO? But NATO's response showed perfect airspace control. Not a single NATO aircraft strayed from its assigned mission. Every fighter jet returned safely to base. Every radar system functioned flawlessly. The contrast in military competence was embarrassing for Russia. The escalation proved that Russia's military operates at a fundamentally different level than NATO forces, and not in a good way. The numbers from the attack tell the complete story. Russia launched 450 aerial threats and achieved 23 successful hits, a 5.1% success rate. NATO coordinated defensive operations across 4 nations with 0 failures, 0 accidents, and 0 casualties. But the breaking point goes deeper than one night's statistics. Russia has lost 1,043,160 troops, according to Ukrainian military data. The country is recruiting from prisons and homeless shelters while paying 400,000 ruble bonuses, 5 times the average monthly wage, just to find soldiers willing to fight. Meanwhile, NATO operates 31 RAS-capable naval platforms, maintains advanced multi-domain capabilities, and coordinates defense systems across 30-plus nations. The alliance's combined military spending dwarfs Russia's entire GDP, and the technological gap grows wider every year. But the most revealing comparison is operational competence. While Russia struggles to hit stationary targets with hundreds of drones, NATO coordinates real-time military operations across multiple nations without a single error or miscommunication. The breaking point isn't just about weapons or spending, it's about fundamental military competence. Russia operates like a Soviet-era military with modern equipment, while NATO operates like a 21st-century integrated defense system. When Russian weapons accidentally fly into NATO airspace during their own planned attacks, it reveals a military that can't even control its own operations, let alone challenge the world's most advanced alliance. The strategic revelation becomes clear when you analyze Putin's behavior patterns. Russia consistently avoids direct military confrontation with NATO forces, instead targeting civilian infrastructure and non-military targets. This isn't strategy, it's admission of weakness. Putin threatens nuclear weapons precisely because he knows conventional warfare with NATO would be catastrophic for Russia. The nuclear threats are designed to prevent the conventional war. He knows he cannot win. But the revelation goes deeper. Russia's military doctrine has shifted entirely to asymmetric warfare, terrorism, cyber attacks, and proxy conflicts, because direct military confrontation with modern Western forces is impossible. The July 21st attack proved this beyond doubt. Russia's most massive assault achieved minimal military impact while triggering a NATO response that demonstrated overwhelming superiority without firing a single shot. But Putin's greatest fear isn't NATO weapons or Ukrainian resistance. It's NATO calling his bluff and engaging in direct military confrontation. Every Russian escalation is carefully calibrated to avoid triggering Article 5 because Putin knows what would happen next. The critical revelation is that Russia's entire military strategy is built around avoiding the war Putin claims he's prepared to fight. NATO's new understanding changes everything about the strategic balance. The alliance realizes it doesn't need to fear Russian military capabilities. It needs to manage Russian desperation and prevent Putin from escalating to nuclear weapons out of conventional military weakness. The coordinated response to the July 21st attack becomes a template for future operations. NATO demonstrates it can coordinate defensive operations across multiple nations in real time, while Russia struggles to coordinate its own attacks from a single command center. But the strategic shift goes beyond military operations. NATO now understands that Putin's threats are based on weakness, not strength. The alliance can call Russia's conventional military bluff without fear of effective retaliation. The new strategy focuses on demonstrating NATO's overwhelming conventional superiority while providing Putin with face-saving exits from confrontations he cannot win. The goal is to avoid nuclear escalation while making clear that conventional warfare with NATO would be suicidal for Russia. But most importantly, NATO realizes it holds all the cards in any potential conflict. Russia's military operates at a fundamentally different level, and the gap is widening every year as Western technology advances and Russian capabilities decline. The alliance's new strategy is based on confidence rather than fear, because the July 21st response proved NATO's overwhelming superiority beyond any doubt. The answer to the question, who loses in a NATO-Russia war, became obvious on July 21st. Russia's most massive attack achieved a 5% success rate, while NATO's response was flawless. The military competence gap is so wide that direct confrontation would be catastrophic for Russia. Putin knows this, which explains his entire strategic approach. Russia avoids direct military confrontation with NATO forces, threatens nuclear weapons to prevent conventional war, and focuses on asymmetric attacks against civilian targets. But the new reality changes global strategic calculations. NATO no longer needs to fear Russian conventional military capabilities. The alliance's integrated defense systems, technological superiority, and operational competence make direct confrontation with Russia a one-sided affair. The July 21st demonstration proved that NATO could coordinate military operations across 4 nations faster and more effectively than Russia could coordinate its own attack. The organizational and technological gaps are insurmountable with current Russian capabilities, but the ultimate resolution is political rather than military. Putin's threats ring hollow because everyone now understands the conventional military reality. Russia cannot challenge NATO directly, which limits Putin's options to nuclear threats and terrorist attacks against civilians. The 5-minute war scenario isn't hypothetical. It's the inevitable result of the military competence gap demonstrated on July 21st. NATO's scrambled jets proved the alliance's superiority without firing a shot, and Putin's careful avoidance of direct confrontation proves he knows exactly who would lose. The night of July 21st transformed the global understanding of military power when Russia's most massive attack achieved a 5% success rate, while NATO's response was flawless across 4 nations. The 5-minute war scenario isn't hypothetical. It's the inevitable result of a military competence gap so wide that direct confrontation would be catastrophic for Russia. Putin's careful avoidance of direct military confrontation with NATO forces, his reliance on nuclear threats, and his focus on civilian targets all prove he understands the conventional military reality better than anyone. The scrambled jets demonstrated NATO's overwhelming superiority without firing a shot. But the most revealing aspect isn't NATO's military capabilities. It's Putin's behavior patterns that prove he knows exactly who would lose in a direct confrontation, and his entire strategy is built around avoiding the war he claims he's prepared to fight.